Hello, everybody, and welcome to
All
the
right.
Nerd Ledger. Hello, Chair. Hello,
Yep.
I'm Cage. That's Chair. We're here to talk about
Fair.
nerd
Here.
things. We are
Yep.
nerds, after all.
Yep. Yep. It's nerd. It's nerd ledger. If you don't know what you tuned into, well, then I can't help you. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Can't
Uh,
figure it out, man. Dude or
yeah.
woman, just figure it out. Person,
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. Well, today we're gonna talk about some of the Penguin.
Some of
Um,
it. Yep.
yeah, and you want to talk about Dragon Age Veilguard
Yep.
because you finished
Yep.
that thing. I meant
I did
I
finish it.
I meant to finish the Penguin, and I thought I'd have time, but I went to a funeral on Monday, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's alright. That's life and death
Yep.
apparently. Um,
Yep.
yeah, and so we didn't get back till like really late, and then I didn't even get to go to the gym on Monday, which makes me very sad.
Mm.
So now I have to go like 11 days in a row. Um, so yeah, that's fun. Um, and then Tuesday, um, so like I've been watching it with my wife, and if I wasn't watching it with her, I would have finished it. But she
Mm.
was doing things on Tuesday, so I wasn't able to watch it with her, and so I wasn't able to finish it. But I got through episode 6, so we
Mm.
can talk.
That's fine. Like we haven't finished. Me and Rio and I are still have yet to watch the finale.
Okay.
She's been busy this week working, and she works like a late shift, so sometimes she can't stay up late to watch things. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I haven't finished it out either yet. I heard the finale is really really good though. That's what I've heard from a lot of people, but I haven't seen it yet. So
Yeah. I
waiting.
mean, like based on like a lot of things I've seen, is like the people always will have this question of like, at what point does it become like do the things in Gotham that are happening become so extreme that like it's improbable that Batman wouldn't be there?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like, if there's any criticism of the show, I think like it's around that. And again, I like we
Mm-hmm.
neither of us have finished it, but um, I think maybe some of those questions might be answered. But I got through episode 6, and there's not anything major yet to where like Batman would show up, right?
Yeah.
Or would need to. But even
Yeah.
then, like you have to you have to put into perspective that like this show isn't from the perspective of Batman. Um,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. Um,
No problem.
but like 90% or more of the Batman content people have watched throughout their life is from the perspective of Batman. So like, of course he's always there when things are happening, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things happening that he's not there for. Right? There can be
Yeah.
major things happening in Gotham that he's not there for because he's somewhere else or he has something else going on. Like, he can't always be there to answer the call, if there even is a call, right? Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
so, and then again, like this takes place after the events of the Batman movie, where at the end he's just kind of like riding off, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know what's going on in Batman's life during the show. So if there were to be anything in the next 2 episodes where you're like, oh shit, like Batman would for sure turn up for this, well, there's a
Mm-hmm.
possibility that he's somewhere else doing something else. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, it's a fair criticism, but I don't think it's a very nuanced criticism of the show, if it from what I've seen. So
Yeah. I've heard that take before, but also like, my Lord and Savior Angry Joe said something very interesting that like, had me thinking about like different other different ways, but it doesn't set up like the situation is something that Batman will respond to, but it does seem like the Penguin is certainly like the kind of villain that Batman would show up to deal with, right? Like he's obviously like blowing his way through all the criminal underworld and like taking out one of Gotham's most powerful longest lasting traditional like criminal families and then building his own little criminal empire and shit, right?
sure, but he's
No.
not anything yet. At least right through episode 6, he's like, yes, he's making moves, but like even the people around him don't understand the moves he's making, or really
Mm,
like, they don't take it seriously. So why would Batman, right?
yeah,
Um,
exactly. But and it keeps growing and everything like that. And I think by the end of, and again, I haven't watched the finale yet, but if it ends in the way I think it's gonna end, it's just gonna be like, definitely a villain that Batman would show up to, like, a criminal that Batman would show up to deal with. Like, another thing about Batman villains is they're all like Batman psychoanalyzes them a lot, right? Is that fair to say? That he's also kind of like a psychiatrist in a lot of ways too, where he psychoanalyzes like his victim, like not his victims, his victims, like the villains that he faces, and
Well,
they are victims, like because they kind of are victims.
you have, I mean, like for people who don't know, right? Like Batman at his core and at his origin is a detective. Like
Yes,
he's a
yeah,
detective.
exactly. He's the greatest detective,
I
right?
mean,
That's like
his first appearance was in Detective Comics.
yeah,
He is a detective. So, yeah, like there are psychological aspects that you would examine when you're being a detective and you're trying to find out things and get answers and solve mysteries. And this version of Batman, the Robert Pattinson version of Batman, is really more in that vein of the detective who's trying to like solve things and figure things out and
yeah,
there's a lot more to that than in other iterations of Batman that we've seen. So
yeah,
yeah, there's definitely a psychological component, and I think that's inherent in what Matt Reeves is trying to do with these stories because there's a lot of psychological things happening within the Penguin as well.
yeah, exactly.
And before we like really dive in, just like again, spoiler warning, if you haven't watched it yet, then
Yeah,
all the
major spoiler warning.
yeah, but like everything about Penguin, you can like everything about Penguin psychologically just by how he responds to things, right? Like that
Yeah,
plays a major role in his character and the decisions he makes and the things he does. Like we see it in the very first episode. I don't. I think it's one of the opening scenes, like either the opening scene or like the second scene, where Alberto, Falcone is
see
there.
the opening scene. That's the opening. Very powerful opening sequence.
Yeah. Well, I think it either opens on that or it opened with like the news reporting about the flooding,
Yeah,
like picking up from where
it
the
did.
Batman ended. Um,
Yeah, and it was just the Penguin like going to get the family jewels, which seems to be like a big part of everything going on. Do
yeah.
those come up in Penguin comics at all? Is there any correlation? Falcone family jewels?
I mean, there's always
And
like stuff like that happening in
yeah,
comics. So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, when he's talking to Alberto and like he's talking about fuck, what's his name? Is it Ron Calabrese? It's something
something
Calabrese.
like
He's
yeah,
talking about like this guy from like he grew up in this poor area on the east side or whatever, and there was this guy that everybody like looked up to and thought was kind of like a hero because he would come around, he'd take care of like the neighborhood and like things like that, and like Alberto starts like teasing Penguin. He's like, "Oh, is that what you want to be? Like, is that like that's your dream? That's what you want?" And then it angers, it angers
the Penguin.
Oz,
Yeah,
and that's why
mm,
he snaps and kills Alberto.
yeah,
Um, and like that's really like you can see you know so much about Oswald Cobblepot, you so much about the Penguin just from that, right?
yeah.
Um, like they give you
Especially
this,
or this version.
yeah,
Yeah, this
they
version.
give you
Yeah,
this insight into his psyche and how he functions.
yeah,
So, and they continue to do that because like that's ultimately I think how he's gonna be got to a little bit, right? And it is like he's very ambitious, but he also has like these shortcomings of wanting to prove himself and wanting to be something, and he thinks very highly of himself, but he also doesn't, right? So
mm,
there's this interesting dichotomy, and it makes for an interesting character, who at times you feel
absolutely.
bad for, but at other
Yeah,
times you're like, wow, like this guy's a piece of shit, like, and he is.
yeah, he's evil. Yeah,
So
absolutely. He's an evil character. There's no doubt about that one. He's a villain.
yeah,
And so that's another thing people got to remember too when watching the show. Like, it's just funny again. Like I was talking about you, like that these spin-offs, like Penguin and Andor, have been some of the best some of the best like content we've gotten like from these like respective like aside from the Batman, but these are still some of the best content we've gotten from like shows in general, like relating to like the with like bigger like properties, So it's good to wow, I really fumbled that one out. But it's just, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's just nice that these shows are so good. Like, 'cause the Penguin is refreshing. It is just like quality. It feels quality. Like there's a lot of good music and stuff like that. Like the vibe is very dark. It feels very evil. It's just really enjoyable. The whole experience so far. Have you ever have any like scenes or anything that you've hated or anything that comes to mind? Because like the whole time we've just been gripped by like we really you saw the Arkham sequence, with what's her face?
Yeah.
I'm so bad with names. Yeah.
Sophia.
Sophia, yeah, Sophia Alberto, which I'm sure you liked a lot.
Yeah, it's really
Did you like
fucked
it?
up.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So yeah, I mean that's a major. It's a major difference between what happens in comics versus what happens in the show. And a lot,
Mm,
obviously, there's always going to be like elitist nerds who are like mad about every little change, but
yeah.
like there's a lot
Or
of
they
very
just hate
necessary
women.
changes, and I think as long as those changes serve the story, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
And in this case, it does. It shows again that Penguin is very ambitious, and he's willing to do anything he can to climb and become something.
Mm,
It shows the ruthlessness of the Carmine of the Falcone family and why they're in power and how they stay in power. And it also just shows like I mean, bro, it's fucking like, bro, did this dude locked up his daughter in a mental asylum for 10 years for
yeah.
crimes he committed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's
Alberto, folk. That's Alberto. No, that's not
no
Alberto. What's his
Carmine.
name? Carmine. Yeah. And he was really good in that. That guy who was playing was really good in the Batman. Like really good.
Yeah, they
He was
recast
very.
him for the Penguin, because the actor was unavailable to be in the show. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, both of them did a good job.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that show was crazy. Like like you feel like you're going crazy a
All
little
the
bit.
everything. Yeah, all the everything for sure. And that whole sequence was fantastic. Well done. Like you know, uh, some first some people on the internet are saying that guy's a scarecrow. I don't know how true that is or not. Keep
Yeah,
him.
people saw like some masks in the background of his apartment or whatever. Is it Jeffrey Rush? Um,
I don't. I don't know.
yeah, that guy's fucking
I'm,
weird.
yeah, I also like that guy. He was Shades in Luke
Mm,
Cage.
yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I like that guy a lot. I've seen him in something else. I can't remember what it was, but he was really fucking good at it. Oh man, I wish I had a better
Yeah.
memory, but I smoked too much weed or whatever. Um, but also like I just always have bad short-term memory because I'm just always doing up to silly things. Um,
Yeah. Well, Clancy Brown is also in this. He plays Salvatore Maroni, and he's in so many comic book properties.
um
So,
frickin' the guy who plays
but
voice
yeah,
Patrick
no,
Star.
like there's
He's
Patrick Starr.
the guy who's the guy who voices Patrick Star. He's the other
In
guy, the other
SpongeBob?
mob father. Yeah, he's the other mob father. What's his name? Hold on, sorry, 1 second.
It's not Sal. No, 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 no. That guy does not
Bill
voice
Fab.
Patrick.
No. He's voiced Mr. Krabs. That's right. Clancy Brown.
Who?
That's his name.
Clancy Brown?
Uh, yeah, Clancy Brown is the voice of Mr.
Really?
Krabs. Yeah, he's been the voice of Mr. Krabs the entire run of SpongeBob.
Interesting.
Yep. Now, the more you know.
He's done a
But also,
bunch
he
of
was.
stuff.
Yeah, he does. He does do a lot of things, and he was also like really good in the show. So, did you get to that sequence where with that whole fight sequence, or no? Did you not see that yet? With Clancy Brown.
I don't know what fight sequence you speak of,
Okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't know what I'm
but
talking about yet,
probably
you
not.
probably haven't gotten to it. Yeah,
I am through episode 6, which ends with Sophia in Penguin's mom's hideout when she's dancing with Victor.
okay, got it. So I'm just checking to see,
So
because there's some funny things that happen. So it's just I'm gonna see how much you enjoy it. the
Well, I did
silliness,
see
like
Penguin burn his son and wife alive.
yeah, 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 okay.
So,
Yeah, so similar things happen.
so
That's
that
really
happened.
enjoyable in episode 7 that you really enjoy. Um, yeah, I think it's really funny. Well done. We'll talk about it for sure next week when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. 7 and 8. Oof. Those are gonna be some heavy hitting episodes I'm predicting. So,
Yep,
um,
yep,
but
absolutely.
yeah, no, like there's just there's everything in the show is gripping, like you were saying, because there's
Mm,
everyone's making moves, everybody's trying to vie for power, and it's well done in a way where it's not campy, it's not like um, overly superhero-y, and like they've given dimensions to characters that in comic books don't always have dimensions, right? Like some villains are
just like what they did in Iron
they're
Man,
just
right? You
villains,
talk
or
about it all the
two-dimensional,
time. You
whatever.
talk, yeah, it's like what happened in Iron Man, right? You talk about it all the time. Like, Iron Man was like a nobody, and then they made Iron Man interesting. Like maybe this starts like Revolution with like the Penguin being like a popular villain, and then that kicking off like a new Batman Renaissance, which I hope happens. Um, but probably won't because we can never get good things in this life.
Yeah,
But
it will.
we can hope.
I think it will. Because the Penguin, all he really needs is something to make people like him, and that's what this show is, right? Like if you consider Batman villains, the Joker is like where he is because I mean he was one of the original ones. He was also featured prominently in the 1960s Batman TV show.
Mm,
He's featured prominently in all the cartoons. The Killing Joke really made a lot of people love the character. But if instead they would have featured more prominently the Riddler, people wouldn't know the difference. Like the Riddler would be the Joker today instead. Like that's what it is. It's who the people making the decisions creatively decide to push, and that's why
mm,
the Joker is who he is nowadays.
mm. Well said. Um, like just like Harley Quinn, right? Harley Quinn was in the animated show only, and she wasn't in any like comic books or anything like that. And then she became arguably one of the most like iconic characters like in the whole Batman universe, aside from Batman and Joker. Like Robin or
Yeah,
Robin or like a Nightwing. I agree with the Harley Quinn is probably more popular than Nightwing, like as a character in general. Like if you go up to the random layperson, you ask them, okay, do you know who Harley Quinn is? And they'll say, yeah, from DC. Okay, yeah, do you know who Nightwing is? And yeah, sure, there will probably be a lot of nerds who go, yeah, Nightwing, he's like from DC or whatever, right? But there will probably be a lot of like, no, I've never heard of Nightwing before ever, because he was only in the Batman the
there
animated
will
series like a
definitely be
couple
more
times.
people, more of the general audience will know who Harley Quinn is over Nightwing. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe because of this, the Penguin will get that kind of treatment, and then hopefully, we'll get less Joker Part 2, less Foe de Low. I forgot about that fucking thing even dropped. Oh man, I don't even want to see it.
Yeah, I think people have always known who the Penguin is, right? Like everybody knows who the Penguin is. It's just people have never really had a reason to care about the character, but now they
Mm,
do, right? And it's not like, oh, I love this character or I hate this character. It's just you're interested enough in the character to where they're gonna probably do more with him, right?
yeah.
And it's the same thing with Loki. Like nobody
Mm,
like Loki was a semi-popular comic book villain, but like now he's like one of the prime villains in Marvel Comics. Well, not I
mm,
shouldn't say comics, but because of the MCU, right? Like people know
yeah,
Loki. People love
yeah.
Loki.
He's popular. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you were saying too, like the best example is Iron Man, right? People love
Yeah.
Iron Man. Iron Man is like an A level hero now in comics because of Robert Downey Jr. in the MCU.
Yep. See it and it's true.
So I feel like that's what this is for the Penguin. It's really like it's gonna generate a lot of interest. And Colin Farrell is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's really, really good. Colin Farrell's selling it. So are you? But are you okay? So are you starting to feel like I don't know? I think the best way to put it is like Penguin, like penguin kind of like penguin fatigue almost sometimes in some scenes where he's like, hey, what should have been, you know, like, you know, do you ever feel like that in some scenes where it's like the scene is kind of spoiled by him just like acting like the penguin? Do you ever have you
Not
gotten that
really.
sensation yet?
No.
Not yet. No. Okay. So I just feel like a couple
No.
times I feel like a couple times I've seen like the show and like he's like in the show like or he was just acting up like you know then all of a sudden he like went into a super thick like accent you know and then like it just kind of grates.
Yeah, he does. He does have that accent.
Yeah, it's like really thick.
You know, when he says like, "Hey, I'm trying to work. I'm trying to work."
Yeah, yeah. It's really really thick.
Yeah, it's just because you don't like people using accents that aren't native to them. You know, I think that's what it is. You're
It's
just
not
an
that I just
accent
think
hater.
no, I just think that the accent is really thick, you know, and I think in some scenes that are like more serious, and then Colin Farrell will come out of nowhere, "Hey, you know, like he'll just come out of nowhere with it. It's kind of like it grates on the ears a little bit, just a bit, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, but he's good at serious too with his accent.
Yeah,
You know, like the scene where like Vic is trying to like leave, and he pulls the gun out, and he's like, "Is this how you fucking fail?" You know.
yeah, yep. That was a good scene. I'm not about that one. Very serious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very serious. So
Is,
I don't know.
is there anything
Maybe
you've
I'd have to be looking for it. Some looking
yeah,
for the annoyance.
yeah. Has there been anything you've hated so far, or have you just all this all just been good all the way down for you?
There's nothing I hate. No, like it's good or it's indifferent or you just have to process kind of um,
Yeah.
how you feel about it really because when you're watching it like you have to be engaged. Like you can't just have it on in the background. You have
Hmm.
to be engaged with it.
Yes, I was noticing that
And
too.
so
Absolutely.
when you're when you're like giving it your full attention, like you don't necessarily even have time to really like think about how you feel about it. You're just watching it and processing it all at once.
Mm. Any other
But
interesting,
I
unique
do
thoughts?
enjoy.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just enjoy watching it. I'm sure the same with you. Where like watching it with somebody and like getting their reactions and like it feels like you get more value out of it when you like are watching someone else's enjoyment or like shock or whatever and not just like you sitting there like yep I'm watching TV.
Yep. Oh, you know my friend Rio, who's like you know hung out in the chat before and everything like that. You know, watch it. I was watching with her, and you know, obviously there's characters that she like feels more like pulled towards. Like you know, like I really like this show. I want to watch the finale, and then I think I'm gonna try to watch it again on my own. But this show, I think, is like almost kind of therapeutic for me in a little bit of ways. You're like, you know, just kind of like taps on a lot of the edgy male like vibes you get sometimes. You know, you ever get that vibe? Like the little, cause like there's some like edgy
Yeah.
male stuff here about like just being angry, like you know, wanting to do something about it, like you know, stuff like that. You picking up on that, or is that just me?
Oh yeah, I mean, no, there's definitely that, but like that's like the to me that's like the old school like what would be considered toxic masculinity these days, where like you don't let people disrespect you, you don't let people walk all over you when you feel
Yeah.
like people have done you wrong, you get them back, you don't stand for people, you know, committing injustices against you. You're gonna, you know, like society is already stacked against you, and sometimes you just have to fight back and shout at the world like I'm worth something and go fuck yourself kind of thing. Like that's you know that's the vibes I get from the show. But
Yeah.
like it's from Penguin's point of view, not like it's not like the show is telling us as viewers that we should behave that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts, opinions, castigations,
No,
accusations?
it's just no, it's just good to watch something,
Yeah,
and not
that's
know where
good.
it's going, and just be
Yeah, yeah.
along for the ride and all the twists and turns, and yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, tell me and everyone else about Dragon Age Veilguard and
Okay.
all the fun that has ensued with your performance of the game.
So fun is a word I would actually use because it is very fun to play. So I guess let me start off with what I don't like. What I don't like is it's sequel. It's obviously the sequel to Dragon Age Inquisition, but it's a sequel that came 5 years way too late, and 10 years since Dragon Age Inquisition. Right? It's been way too much for. It's been way too long of a time. Um, I just think that this game really doesn't really translate the scale of its plot very well to the cinematics that it offered and everything like that, and like a way that Inquisition did much better about how the Inquisition was built rather than how the Veilguard is being built in this game. Um, I think some of the characters are obviously I said this a lot. I'm gonna try to keep this short and brief and not ramble like I did last time, even though it's all good content, even though we're only at 30 minutes, but it doesn't matter. Um, but what I will say is that I really reinforce the point that it feels like they were writing this game after Inquisition came out and it was wildly successful, for Dragon Age game, and like it sold a lot of copies, and they started making the sequel to Inquisition. And then I think that then really bad cuts happened to BioWare, right? Anthem came out. Anthem was a total flop. It was just a complete failure through and through. Most people don't know what Anthem is anymore. How do you fuck up Anthem? Like you're just flying around in a mech suit. Like it's an MMORPG where you're in a mech suit, right? That was the idea, and they fucked that up by just making the most like boring, soulless, like useless game. And so they had a lot. BioWare had tons of cuts, tons and tons of cuts, and a lot of the Dragon Age team got cut, and I feel like that they packed up this game, Dragon Age Veilguard. I feel like that was the original name of the game, and they packed it up, and then they put it away in like a vault. And then what came up eventually is they put out another game, Andromeda, and then they started working on this game, and they plucked it out of the vault, and they had a completely new writing team, and they had a completely new like design and everything different team, and they worked hard on it and they made an okay game, but it's just some of the writing is very weak. There's no excuse for some of the dialogue just being so cheesy and bad and awful. Like this not Dragon Age, Mass Effect Andromeda had this problem too. A lot of the dialogue just fucking sucked. Like it's not just like the people talking to each other for the major plot points, but like the actual dialogue between the characters themselves, right? You spend most of your time in these video games like wandering in between different points, and the that playtime is filled by you looking at two things, by you looking at cool things, like you're like traveling through this cool like environment, and then your character, your party members interacting with each other. And in Andromeda and in Veilguard, the party members interacting with each other is like hilariously bad and just like so forced and so fake. And in Dragon Age Inquisition was the exact opposite, where they would have like amazing, awesome conversations that also made them very human and relatable, right? Like they made you like want to go talk to them after you finish the mission because they were having like these fun conversations that carried their personalities very well. And now you just don't have that anymore with especially with Veilguard. With Veilguard, that's pretty much just almost gone, which really sucks. But that being said, though, the gameplay is like the final. This gameplay feels like the apex of what they were trying to do in Dragon Age 2, which is another game that had serious problems on launch, didn't sell very well, was very poorly received, was flamed as being like part of the gay agenda or whatever the fuck. Um, but on top of that, Dragon Age 2 told a really good story. Like I told you, there are really hardcore things that happened, like that church getting bombed, right? Like on Sunday morning. Like that was really hardcore, and it had a lot of hardcore, like it's really political stories, like I said, they're thinly veiled allegory, sure, but also just because of that, it was a more relatable game, and also because it was relatable, you were more immersed in the world of in this world, right? In Dragon Age and the lore and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it's also badass and fun, you know. And there are fucked up decisions you can make too, like in the first game, second game. That's another problem with this game is like you're just the most generic good guy. You don't do anything interesting or compelling or very different.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of like a problem on its own. Um, that's definitely a problem on its own. You want yourself to be like, there's some, and I don't know, like I don't know how to properly like vocalize like okay, but also like it's fun to make bad evil decisions because it is like I don't do that very often. There are very few games where I actually do that with. Usually just Star Wars games, like in Knights of the Republic, where there's like basically two different paths where you could be a light side Jedi or you could be a dark side Jedi, right? And you could do that in Knights of the Republic 1 and 2, and they're both completely 100% different storylines, depending on what choice you picked. So, yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know a guy who's very like anti woke everything, and like all
I
he
wonder
does
who
is
that is.
complain about DEI and bullshit, and yeah.
I have
um
no idea who you're
and
talking about.
he actually likes he actually likes Veilguard.
Yeah.
He talked to me about it. He's like, yeah, I know people complain about the game, but it's actually a good game. Like no one makes you be anything you don't want to be. It's not actually like it's not actually woke or anything like that much.
Yeah. Has he beaten Veilguard?
So I don't know, and I also don't know if that was growth or just like he enjoys the game so he doesn't care. But whatever.
Wow. Yeah, well, the gameplay is very fun, so I will continue to rate that. So, like, the point I was finished, another point I was like trying to get because, like, Dragon Age 2, the only reason Dragon Age 2 is unpopular, Dragon Age Origins kind of played like I'm gonna be honest, it played like World of Warcraft, like, and I'm 100% like 100% about that. It had World of Warcraft talent trees, it had like a hot bar, and it had like potions and stuff like that, and like you could build your character in different ways, and you really needed to have like a healer on your team, and you really needed to have like a tank and then you would bring like two DPSs, right? And that because you had a party of four. That was how it was in Dragon Age. You always had a party of four. So you would have like
Is
and
it
that so that
turn-based
was kind of
combat?
no, no, it was not. But it was like it was action. It was like it was like you click on something and it was like did you play Knights of the Republic the first one?
Maybe a little bit of it.
Okay. Well, no. It wasn't turn based. It's all like the old. It's like it's active. It's like active RPG combat, right? Where you right click and you say attack, and your character wanders over and starts attacking. And then the other people start attacking back at you.
Oh,
Um, and it was all
I hate
AOE
that.
based. All it, well. So yeah, it was a little clunky, that's for sure. Dragon Age 1 was definitely clunky. No one will say the first Dragon Age game was not like a kind of a mess sometimes. That's not just not true. It's just not true. It was definitely kind of a mess sometimes. There's no doubt about that one. With that being said, though, one sec, sorry. I still think that Veilguard the game. So Dragon Age 2 completely redid how combat works. It's like kind of like it played like an action RPG. A lot like an action a lot like an action RPG, right? Um, and because of that, it was very clunky because you could tell like they just didn't know how to make that jump, right? That's the only way I can describe it. Like I feel like it's kind of a shitty way of describing it, but like it just didn't work out
Hmm.
very well in the second game, right? It was very clunky. And then in Inquisition, it got a little less clunky, and in this game, it flows very, very well. I feel like this is the apex of that combat system that they were trying to achieve in two. And you do have to rely on your party members to do very specific things, and like it's just very intense. And I had it cranked up to nightmare. I had it cranked up the difficulty cranked up all the way, and it was a very intense gameplay loop. There's no doubt about that. That was very fun. The bosses are really enjoyable. They recycled the dragons a lot, which really kind of sucks because in Inquisition, which is just a fucking amazing. God, I love Inquisition so much. I need to play Inquisition again soon. But in Inquisition, all the dragons are a little bit different from each other. In this game, all the dragons are the same. They just have different elemental types. In Inquisition, like they all had different combat sets and stuff like that. But I guess we can't have everything we want. And in this game, like you just have the different enemy types you got to fight with, and you got to match your weapon elements to whatever you're fighting. If you're a wizard like I am, I'm always doing elemental damage. So
Hmm.
I had to switch it up a lot. So. Um, but just to clear it out, like Veilguard is not as bad. Like I think there's like this toxic manosphere response to it. I know that sounds kind of cringe, but it is. That's what it is, right? It's like this is toxic manosphere response to it being woke because there's one character who's their entire plot, Tass's entire plot line is about coming out to their mother as a gender neutral. It does, at a lot of points, read very
Hmm.
politically and not about. It doesn't not natural at all, and the decisions you can make for tasks don't really impact their like motivations at all. It does feel very ham-fisted, but other than that, like, and Tass is also a very one-dimensional character. In addition to that, so you know, make of that what you will. I romanced Harding. It was fine. Um, Aside from that, the game doesn't feel very woke at all. It feels very intense. There's a lot of dark things that do happen in this game. Bloody things that happen. Bloody things that are implied. Um, Again, all the racism has been rinsed out of Dragon Age. I really hate that. Everyone used to hate it. They're all racist against elves. It's the whole reason Souls is doing everything that he's doing. So, it sucks to kind of whitewash that out of existence, but I guess that is what it is. Beggars can't be choosers. Um, um, yeah, and aside from the fact that you're just like locked in the hero path, like even the tough choices are just tough guy choices. I don't know really what else to say that hasn't that I didn't say like last time when I was rambling. Like you don't really build a Veilguard in the same way you build an Inquisition, which kind of sucks. But also the war table from Inquisition, which is basically this table that you like would like send your little guys to, um, and they would like do missions and shit for you. And like for like it sometimes like some missions would take like 10 hours. Like it was really annoying. Like and it was just like time gates to keep you coming back and playing because Inquisition had this multiplayer, which was actually surprisingly very fun. But is just not why you would play Dragon Age Inquisition, right? So. And Veilguard does
Hmm.
again. Veilguard had issues where it was supposed to be a live service game, like they were trying to make like a live service MMO kind of thing, and then they changed it halfway through to be a single player game again. So, you know, maybe they'll bring that back. I'm not sure. I know you have no experience with
Yeah.
Dragon Age at all, and I think like the game again, the game would probably bore you a lot. I just I'm just sorry if I'm making an assumption about you, but you just seem like you like a lot more active games where you're just like more actively involved. Hop in multiplayer probably, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, Origins especially
No,
runs very slow.
I like combat systems like from the Two Towers game when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Or like
Yeah,
Lord of the Rings
just kind of
Conquest or War in
definitely
the
like just
North.
yeah, definitely very action based for sure, right? Just you really enjoy
Yeah, like
the action part of
Battlefront.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe when maybe if they make a Battlefront 3, I'll come join that with you
Yeah.
and we can play it together, something like that. That'd be fun. But I like like right now I'm playing a
Yeah. I
factory
mean, I'd
game.
have to get it for like a console because my computer would explode.
Yeah, yeah. Switch over to streaming on console. It's fine. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that Steam is holding true. Like if you go on, it says mostly positive on the reviews. So like the Manosphere response to the game is improving, and Asmongold isn't like when Veilguard first came out, he was making like 100 videos a day about how Veilguard was failing because of like how woke it is, and it's just not true. It sold fine, because Dragon Age like again like the first game the very first game in Origins, which came out in like 2006. 2007 had a very aggressive homosexual character. So there's that, like and that was like controversial. And then in two had I think it had a trans character, and three had another openly trans character. And and it's just I don't know. I don't know why people are complaining about it being woke. Dragon Age has always been like had these characters that are just like, different. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, different isn't always bad.
Nope. And it's just good to keeps things fresh for sure. There's no doubt about that one.
True. True. Cool. Well, is that all your thoughts, or are there more
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, all I thought is just it's a good game. It's not like it really feels like they finished like 60% of the game and they locked it up, and then after cuts happened at EA, and then they like took it back out of the vault with a completely new team, and the team took that combat system, really ran with it, made something cool. The lore team, it really just feels like again someone was writing through this game, just filling in gaps. That's what it really felt like. It really felt like someone was like, I gotta write this here, I gotta write this here, I gotta write this here, I gotta write this here. Gotta get these lines recorded like ASAP, different like like things that sound different, you know. And it's just It's a shame that happened to Dragon Age and we didn't get Dragon Age Inquisition, because Dragon Age Inquisition was a supremely good game. But again, I'm glad this game is successful. I hope it means we'll get more Dragon Age content in the future, because I am a huge Dragon Age fan. So, and hopefully, like, maybe next time we'll get like something that's got a little bit more personal touch, personal love to it, made by one consistent team throughout the whole time. That's like, more true to what it's supposed to be. But they're pushing ahead on Mass Effect 5, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the game is probably successful enough that they'll continue to make more of it. So,
Yeah.
I don't think you have anything to worry about with that one.
Good. I'm glad not to have to worry. It would suck to. It would really suck to have to worry about. It would. It would really have to suck to have to worry about. Dragon Age is my favorite content of all time. So I really wanted to succeed, and I want to get more of them. So, as many as possible.
Yeah. Well, I think that's everything. So, thanks everybody. We'll be back next week to talk about episodes 7 and 8 of The Penguin and whatever else is going on. So thanks for hanging out. Talk, blah, 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 blah. Like, comment, rate, preview, subscribe. See you next time.
That good stuff.
Bye.
Bye.